I don't know if you need the recording. Maybe will you remember to record it?
Oh, how it is to have a better tree canopy. And much of our inner city community does not. And I'm looking forward to being in the Senate and working with organizations like ACE and Speak for the Trees to ensure that EJ communities like ours get the attention they deserve. We know that environmental justice issues are also economic issues and social political issues, and they're also healthcare related. We know that we have a higher asthma rate, and we know that our life expectancy is all impacted by the built environment. So thank you to the staff, the teens, the board members, any volunteers that have helped achieve these great goals over the last 5 years. And I'm looking forward to the next 5 years. Thank you guys. Have a good night. I'm so sorry I couldn't be with you. Hi.
Without further ado, our board chair, Dr. Atyia.
Thank you. So happy Thursday. Oh, was it Thursday yet? It's
No,
Thursday. Is it Wednesday?
After today.
Almost. Happy Wednesday. I'm trying to hurry up and get to Friday, y'all. Happy Wednesday. So glad to be here with you all this evening on behalf of the board of Speak for the Trees. It is a pleasure to celebrate this 5-year anniversary. For me personally, it has been an absolute joy and pleasure to have known David from the beginning as he was building this organization and to become a part of the board and then later to become a board chair and watch the evolution, the trajectory of the work, not just in terms of planting trees, which is important, but also in terms of relationship building, supporting movements and communities, as we just heard Senator Miranda talk about environmental justice issues, right? And making sure that communities have what they need in order to thrive in all realms, including the environment and including the trees that are in our communities. And so this is a part of something so much bigger and so much that is contributing to the lives of movements in in communities across the city. And so the other thing I wanted to share is David mentioned that there was a book he read recently that the Cherokee referred to trees as standing people and considers them sentient beings. Well, recently, there has been a lot of emerging research around trees and how they communicate with each other, how they share resources with each other. So people used to only think of aspen trees in that way, right? That they have these underground networks of systems. Well, in fact, in forest areas or in areas where there's multiple trees, they're constantly communicating with each other. They're shifting resources away from a tree that's dying to a newer tree that needs it more. They're distributing resources across the board in an equitable way, in ways that model for us in society and in communities, ways that we can be better and do better. And so there's a lot that we can learn from trees beyond what folks generally think of in terms of how they behave, how they contribute to our lives, and how they interact with each other. And then the last thing I'll say about trees that I love to mention is how much they contribute to our mental health. There's a ton of research about how important it is to be in spaces with nature, especially trees. And one of the main emotions that it conjures up is awe, the sense of awe, which is one of the 7 major emotions that's important for our positive mental health. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here this evening. And I get the wonderful pleasure of being your kind of MC, kind of sort of, like I'm going to be like in and out. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about 2020 in review. There's so much to share. This is just a snapshot of the things that have happened this year. But it would just give you a sense of how much progress that there has been made in just 1 year. And Josh is going to walk us through that. That's what I heard.
No, first we had our little
the poll.
interlude.
Oh yeah, the poll, which isn't on this one. My apologies.
My bad.
No, my apologies. But he did tell me about the polls, so that was.
So we have a fun activity that you can do at home and you can do here. Take out your phone And our first question to you is, how many trees can you see from your bedroom window? And look, it updates as you put it in. Oh, for those of you who are back there, there's plenty more seats up here if you like. Ooh, 13 people are voting. This is good. It's working. This is cool.
4 or more
That's impressive.
for the win.
Yeah. Remember Cecil's last name? The researcher who does this guy. Wow. All right. So people are still voting. I'll tell a little story here. There's a wonderful researcher from, I believe he's Germany, Cecil. Do you know his name? Have you heard this? He came out with this buzz sort of metric called 330-300. Did you hear about this? And he said, in order for us to we should all hope to have 3 trees that we can see from our bedroom window, live in a community that has 30% tree canopy coverage, and be no more than 300 meters away from a public green space. 330-300. This was, I think, he wrote it just as like COVID was happening, so it really took off. So look at that, 52% of people. We have 12% at 3, so we have 64% of people in this group that see at least 3 trees from their window. It's beautiful.
I think maybe one person has none.
Yes. So thank you. We're gonna have 2 more polls later on, so get ready.
And thank you for that. So, get out the way.
All right, so I'm gonna quickly run through our accomplishments for the year, and Claire was kind enough to remind me that 5 years ago, there was no urban forestry nonprofit in Boston. And I was making this slide. I thought, wow, we've done a lot. And I'm really proud of the work that the staff has done to make all these projects possible. This year, we planted 112 trees in East Boston and Mission Hill and Jamaica Plain and in Dorchester. We have given away over 1,200 trees. In the spring, we were in Mattapan and Roxbury. During Arbor Week, we gave away seedlings. And then this fall, we came back to Roxbury and we had a great new partnership also in Alston. We've expanded our Teen Urban Tree Corps program. The 15 teens from this summer cared for over 200 trees in this hot summer. You'll see them there, taking a little break and enjoying some popsicles. And thanks to a fellow from this fall, just in the past 3 months, we've engaged about 150 youth and family members who learned about trees and tree equity. Look who's here. We got a little representation. So both here in our offices and also with some schools in the neighborhood. Thanks to the amazing leadership of Jarrell Ferguson, our Boston Urban Forest Friends Network has really taken off. We held our first annual symposium over at Boston Public Library. And over the past year, over 200 people engaged. We made some really great new friendships. And then we kicked off an amazing Arbor Week last year. We had 13 in-person events, 3 online events, and had about 300 people learn about the importance of trees. And we're excited for this year's. And look who's in that picture. Go back for a sec. He seems to be everywhere. All right, and finally, we are doing some really exciting work around collecting tree stories and engaging communities in learning about trees in their neighborhood. On Monday, we were just down the street in Codman Square with some graduate students from BU and folks from the Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation to develop some tree walks in their neighborhood. We're working in Codman Square, in Edgewater neighborhood, in Mattapan, and with neighborhood of affordable housing in East Boston, and we're excited for the spring to share with you the walks that we'll be doing. So with that,
We will go to our guest speaker, Chris Roddick, who will talk to us about why urban trees need you. So we ready to queue up? Chris, where is Chris? There he is. Okay. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Move from the light here. It's the first time I've spoke to a live audience in a few years. The last,
I think I was at the talk you gave at Tower Hill was February
yeah,
2020.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
And right before that, I gave a talk in Brooklyn at a garden club. And I had to sit through their business meeting. And on the third thing on their agenda, I really remember this, they talked about how they had to raise more money for better speakers. So, anyway, so I want to talk about trees, and I want to talk about how trees need you. So, but let me talk a little bit about trees have been around for hundreds of millions of years. About almost 400 million years. We've been around maybe 300,000 years. So trees, us. So trees have been doing their things for a very long time without us. Trees are among the most successful things in nature. They are the largest living organisms, or among the largest living organisms. They're the tallest. They are among the oldest living organisms. So bristlecone pine trees and others can live to be thousands of years. So trees are a pretty remarkable organism. And they are in every continent throughout the world, except for Antarctica, or at least in the past 100,000 years. Okay, so they've been around. So, and they've been able to do this and be so successful because they're adaptable. And this adaptability is really one of the few key things that I think that really help trees be successful. So they can grow in many different places. But the other thing that trees can do is they react. So think about it. If you're a tree and you're planted in, and you might be around for 1,000 years for some species, or hundreds or 100 years, maybe in a city or park setting, you're an easy target. You're going to get hit a lot. You're rooted in. You can't run away from your problems. Something's coming at you. You got to take it. So your ability to adapt and react to those injuries or to what's happening. It could be a snowstorm. It could be
A
drought, hurricane, all those kinds of things. You can't get out of the way. The line clearing crews coming down the road, you can't run away from that. Okay. So trees, because they're rooted in, they had to be able to do this adaptation and sort of react to things that hit it. So those are two things. The other things that the trees do is that which I could do better at, is they're really good economizers. Okay. They spend their resources wisely as best they can. There's nothing that's perfect. And what do they spend it on? They spend it on growth. They spend it on defense. They spend a big chunk of it on reproduction, as some of us do too. Okay. And they take some of their resources, and some trees take a lot of their resources. Here it's talking about is they spend those resources feeding other organisms. And those through a system called exudates. And they build a community. And it's that building the community, they do a few things, is they create a community around it by giving the exudates basically sugars through the soil and through the stem of the plant. And this gives them the ability to partner with other organisms. Okay. And it's this partnership with other organisms that help them actually is probably the key thing for their long-term survival, both as a species and as an organism and as an individual. Okay. And through some of that process and through these connections with other organisms, that's where communication takes place. That's where shared resources takes place. All these things kind of happen through that. So the ability to organize yourself with a community is really beneficial. Okay. So when you take, so what trees do is they build systems. A forest is a system of all these. It's not just a tree alone. It's many trees and plants and other organisms all together. And so trees are like these organisms that belong to these big, highly complex systems. And then what we do is we take that tree out of the system and we plant it as a street tree, or we put it in our parks, or we plant the trees around our house. And what happens is the plants, we see trees growing in the city all the time. And that's because they're adaptable. And what we do is we take the most adaptable plants. And that's the plants we bring into our cities, into our towns. And not all plants can do, not all trees can do that. Okay, so over years, many years, we've selected trees that are more adaptable than other trees. And those are our palette of our urban forest. Okay. When we look at those trees, now these connections are broken. And that's where we have to come in. Okay. So some of the things we need to do to help the trees along, because we've taken that tree out of the forest, we planted in this tree pit or in the park, and now where are all my buddies? Where are my friends? You know, I'm not getting what I need. Okay. Trees are going to try to adapt and adjust to that as best they can, but there are limits. And this is where we can help out. And it's also where we can do a lot of damage too. As a professional arborist over 30 years, and I've cut down, sad to say, like thousands of trees for various reasons over that course of time. But I would say 2/3 of those reasons is because of direct or indirect causes from us. Okay. Some you can argue for some of the other third is, you know, through storm damage and things like that, but maybe that's also, we're partly responsible for that too. So our ability to come in and work with trees is really important. Okay, so trees have been around for these like hundreds of millions of years, and now we're stepping in. Okay, and the reason why we need to step in is because every major tree species you can name that grows in the Northeast that we use in our built environment, I can name you an insect, a disease problem, a blight to every one of those species. Okay, and the reason for that is because commerce moves much faster than evolution. Okay, we are bringing things in from around, we're a global community now. We're bringing things in from all around the world, and trees don't have the time to do that, to adjust and to react to those new pathogens or to those new blights. And so, you know, so that's kind of like where we need to step in and try to rebuild the systems that we take the trees out from the forest and try to put those systems back into our urban environment or into our built environment. And that's the work that I've been like working on in the past few years, is where we can take like we plant one tree. And in fact, in the New York City where I'm from, the street tree spec for a tree here, the next tree is 23 feet away from it. Does anybody know why? Because in London, 100+ years ago, maybe even longer, 23 feet was the distance you needed to tie one horse to your tree over here and the other horse to the tree over there. And that's how far you had to keep the two horses apart. We've taken that spec because no one questioned it. But you go through the forest, like trees aren't, I mean, there are trees 23 feet apart, but there's trees 10 feet apart, 5 feet apart, 6 feet apart. Like they're very like, there's like this complexity that happens. And what we need to do is we need to start looking at that complexity closer. And a lot of people have, and there's been a lot of great work happening the past decade, where we can sort of, instead of planting a tree, we plant trees together. We create a little system together, and then we manage it by thinning out. We do what's called managed succession. We can take some of those plants out and thin them out over time, as it would happen in a natural forest ecosystem. So, but what that's involved is us, and not only us, it's us we need to be trained. These are like, we're like, working with trees is hard work, it's dangerous, things are heavy, and we need to get people interested in working with trees, both like in groups, but also like professionally. Like we need to show them like this a lot of advanced training has to happen. It's not planting the tree. There's a lot of skill and craftsmanship that go into planting and pruning and all those things. And it's very important to teach those properly, because a lot of reasons why we have a lot of trouble with urban trees, because we do things and they're not done properly. Okay, 100 years ago, or in New York, the most common street tree in the 1800s was ailanthus. Anybody know that tree? Okay, and then the reason why they started taking Atlantis out in New York City, because there's this little worm thing that was growing on them, that was like coming in and they were getting into people's houses. This is before people had screens on the windows, so everyone complained about Atlantis trees. We're still living with Atlantis trees now, hundreds, 100 and some years later. But other trees were being planted. And when you planted it back then, when you planted trees by hand, you did it right the first time, because if you're digging a hole and you're moving this big tree, you're going to do it slowly, you're going to take your time, you're going to come back and water it, because you don't want to have to do that job again. You're going to move on to the next tree. Now we mechanize a lot of things, and things just kind of happen very quickly. And we're losing that craftsmanship and that skill. The other thing is for in biology and taking care of things, whether it's a tree, a plant, a person, an animal, is it's not just the skills you know and knowing and learning the system, but it's the decisions you make. Like when you're planting trees, like, hey, these trees could go over here because this is a wet area. This group of trees, this species over here can go in the sunny area. We're going to do that, and that's something we also need to work on and train more. Okay. So really, like, as much as we need to help trees have been helping themselves for a very, very long time. They're pretty self-sufficient away from us. But if we're going to invite trees into our, into our spaces, we need to learn from them. And we need to like adapt ourselves and to like do practices that are like both going to benefit not just the tree, but the system at whole. And also benefit the people. We also need to support the people that are really doing that work, which you guys, and I applaud what you guys have been doing here. This has been great work. And that's what we need to support. Like for me, the most important thing is right now is we need to support the people and build a profession so we can do good care. Great. Thank you very much.
So now we get to experience an a poll first.
I can't remember.
Hold on.
No.
Okay. I'm trying to keep up, y'all. So Tafari Edge Wallace is going to be interviewed with David up here. Now, are we bringing chairs out for you all to sit up? What are we doing? How are we gonna step this up?
It's like the actor's studio.
Should we
Yeah.
do the chair?
The chair. Let's do it for real.
Okay. You see us on the video? Could we sit here, Josh?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
welcome. I have with me, we should have two ferns here. I have with me Tafari, and I'm gonna give a brief introduction and then I have a few questions. I had the pleasure of talking to Tafari at length last week and learned a lot about his journey the past 4 years. Tafari is an 18-year-old young man, grew up around here in Grove Hall. And the way I know Tafari is he was a 14-year-old, fair to call you boy, back then, much younger, there he is, back in 2019 in our first Teen Urban Tree Corps program. And there you see him, same sort of pose, right? Second from the left with Commissioner Woods. Next slide, Josh. You have another picture of him here again with he's all the way there on the right. There's Michelle Wu, then City Councilor. And then next slide. And then we go back and do another slide again. And there he is. We're not quite sure what he was wearing. We were all asking each other, what's Tafari doing with his jacket? But there he is with Representative Ayanna Presley on the last day of our Teen Urban Tree Corps program. So I've known Tafari since 2019. Fun fact, we graduated from the same high school. So Tafari is now in Boston Power Corps, and a pleasure to be here, Tafari, with you. And I was hoping you could start off by sharing with folks what it was like to be a member of Teen Urban Tree Corps for you.
It was cool, it was a great first step into the green industry. I enjoyed the outdoors, walking, learning about trees, especially the Norway maple, like I told you. So yeah, it was a great experience to have.
And now you're in Power Corps. You want to tell folks what Power Corps is and how it relates
Yeah, so PowerCore is a workforce development program. Our office is located on Columbia Road. We do a whole lot of environmental maintenance from Boston. Earlier this week, we were in Brighton at the library. We worked at Fenway, Mass Harbor, taking down the basic plans. Doing a whole bunch of environmental.
And how did this experience shape your thinking around environment and trees?
Well, it really opened my eyes to the importance of nature to young. Showed me the importance of trees, what it does for the community, what it does for our mental space, just all that. Yeah.
Have you decided what's next for you yet?
Something in the green industry. I'm trying to get my hand as dirty as listen. My hand as dirty as possible and everything, man. All the hard work, something in the community. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I want to just applaud Tafari. It's been a pleasure to watch you grow. I was telling folks Tafari was a high school student when we knew him, but I think he was still he was growing into himself, I should say. And it's a pleasure to see how much this city has supported you and how much you feel like you found something you love, which is what we hope, and to be able to give back to the community. So thank you.
Now, for real this time, there's a poll. And the question is, have you planted a tree before? So for folks who are here, remember, you pull out your phone, catch that QR code up there. If you're watching us live, you can also do the QR code, or you can go to the website and put that number in. Have you planted a tree before?
I know your answer, Tafari. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot. I got a little certificate for you. Not bad. All right, take another couple of seconds, but I think we're going into the recognition. Yes. Our technology.
Okay, it looks like a good percentage of us have planted a tree before. So yay us, and those who have not planted a tree before, please make sure you're on the Speak for the Trees distro list so you can have that experience. And now we get to the most exciting part, which is awards. So the first award is going to be given by Jarrell. Jarrell, you want to come on up?
Yes. I have so much to say. No. All right, good evening, everybody. Jarrell Ferguson, Community Outreach. Ilani.
Helani.
Oh, Hilani, that's right.
Elani.
Ilani,
It's all right. Daryl always got.
Yeah, and David. Ilani is a native of the Dominican Republic who came to the US at a young age, who was raised in Boston. Ilani attended English High School in Jamaica Plain and graduated from Simmons University and Northeastern Law School. Ilani currently lives in Mattapan with her son, James, her dog, Mia, and her newly adopted kitten, Toki. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes.
Toki, all right. Ilani works with Haitian refugee families at Jewish Vocational Service, and yet she still finds time to participate, show up, share her energy, and volunteer at several of our events and we couldn't be happier to honor and recognize her today. I have the privilege to introduce Ilani Morales. Picture? Anyone else?
Gotta hold
Yeah,
up
yeah,
your.
yeah,
No, I mean, talk for a
Too
few
late,
minutes.
you're already up there. All right, Ilani.
So I was told that Jerome was gonna ask me 2 questions.
Oh, yeah, I am.
And that was it. But I do wanna thank you, to the entire team at Speak to the Trees for making it easy for me to take on, a passion of mine to plant trees and get more trees in the hands of our communities, particularly communities of color, where we struggle with very little tree canopy and are constantly fighting off developers that, just wanna knock down all our trees, make a quick buck, and then go back to their tree-lined neighborhoods, leaving our children with higher asthma rates, and just, bare concrete for, our home. So thank you so much, Jarrell, David, Josh, the entire team, and thank you to my family for being here today. My mother, my father, my uncle, my 2 aunts. We all live Dorchester, Quincy, Mattapan, Hyde Park, we're all over the city, and they've been with me from the very beginning through my ups and downs, and have always been willing to entertain my crazy obsessions, my most recent obsession, trees, and letting me plant all the trees I want in your yards and in your neighborhoods. So thank you so much. And thank you all for being here.
So, Ilani, so quick question. How did you become interested in planting trees?
Well, before the pandemic, I had absolutely no involvement or commitment to environmental justice and climate change. But it really took a lockdown to kind of reflect on, what was happening, what was our role on this planet, what impact were we having on the planet. And it became painfully clear to me and to, all of us really, that, when humans were, locked away, nature flourished, and it really, for me, it was like a sobering truth, like, wow, there's something about the way we behave and consume that has this toxic effect on all of the living organisms around us. And so that really got me thinking about, what my role was and how we could really make a difference. And maybe, we can't undo what we've already done, but we can try to minimize our footprint that we leave on this planet. And we also have children that we have to think about. So I want to try to, that just got me really into trees. And then I learned about Speak for the Trees, and they can't get rid of me. They're looking through their events, they're like, what was she doing here? She's everywhere. But I just thank you guys for making it easy for me to take on that passion.
And what's your favorite tree? That's the question.
Last answer. My favorite tree is the oak tree. Pound for pound, the best heavyweight champion of the Northeast. The oak tree feeds the highest number of living species of any tree in the Northeast. And so if you're thinking of planting a tree or considering planting a tree, go with the oak tree. That's the one.
And next up, we're gonna have Victoria, who is going to introduce the recognition for community partnership.
Hi, yes, I have the pleasure of introducing Max Rome. Come on up.
Woo!
And
Stand over there, Matt. Yeah, there you go.
Max is speaking as, I'm not quite sure what title to give him, but I
A
decided to say
representative.
the instigator
Yeah.
of
Co-instigator.
Alston Brighton Tree Alliance, which is an emerging neighborhood group, as the name indicates, in Alston Brighton. And Max himself is an Alston resident, a lover of trees. He has background in civil and environmental engineering. But I will let him mostly talk about the Alston Brighton Tree Alliance.
Yeah. Well, I will just say, kind of like Alani, that we are really grateful. We met because we came to the symposium, and I think like so many people after 2 years of COVID, we were so excited to kind of get back into it and get our hands dirty, and figure out something that we could get engaged with. And when we were at the symposium, I happened to sit down at a table with like 5 other people, and turns out we were all from Alston and all just having the exact same idea. So that was just a wonderful experience of having a beautiful table of engagement laid out before us by Speak for the Trees.
Yeah, and I'll just interject, and I don't know if it's been mentioned earlier, but the symposium he's talking about was the first symposium of what I believe will be an annual series of the Boston Urban Forest Friends. So it's such a nice feeling to know that at one of our events, there were a group of people who met each other, and this group grew from that event.
Yeah, and we're just getting started, and we have so many ideas about things that we'd like to do. So I'm excited to see what next.
So one of the we've been talking about expanding our work. We've largely been in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, and East Boston. We've been talking about expanding into Alston and Brighton. And when this group started forming, it was the perfect opportunity to work together. So I'm wondering, if you just want to talk a little bit about what the group did in relation to the tree. We planned a tree giveaway. I've forgotten the exact date now. End of April, I think. But we planned a tree giveaway, and it really wouldn't have happened without the work that the folks in Alston did. So we can talk a little bit.
Well, yeah, so that was a wonderful, we were all kind of saying, okay, well, we want to get organized together, but we don't know what the first thing we want to do is going to be. And Victoria and Speak for the Trees kind of said, well, one thing that we can do together is do a neighborhood tree giveaway. Okay, that sounds great. That sounds very doable. But what was really wonderful about it is it got us all out walking in the neighborhood. We did a lot of flyering, but we ended up realizing that door knocking was even better than flyering. And one of the things we're really trying to focus on is, so the big issue in Alston is all the sidewalks are like 4 feet wide, so you can't even plant street trees. So kind of looking at like the desire lines. Okay, everybody walks to Star Market down this way. Hey, here's this would be a great place for a tree, and just knocking on people's doors. And I was amazed by how many times people just said, yes, we want a tree there, or yeah, you can see there's this tree stump. There was a beautiful tree there, but it had a blade, it had to get taken down. So I think there's just such amazing energy to plant more trees in the city, and Speak for the Trees is kind of providing that little, catalyzing energy to make it a little bit easier. And so yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to talk a little bit about, some of the things you would like to do or think you could do.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of ideas that people are excited about. So I think my main goal is just to kind of like keep it slow and just build something that can be really sustainable. But one of the, I think, cool challenges in Alston is it's a neighborhood that a lot of young people come through, and And I think they have a hard time getting involved with like local politics or just feeling involved in the neighborhood. So we're really trying to build up to be a place where people can get engaged with something quickly. So I think one of the big things that we want to do for next summer is develop some kind of tree watering apparatus. Maybe it's a cart that we push around, maybe it's a bicycle with a big tank on the back. And be able to get people to sign up and take shifts to water some of the new trees in the neighborhood.
Josh is our expert on tree water.
Okay, so we'll talk to Josh. But, and we've got Artisan Asylum in the neighborhood. I've talked to some people there, so I'm hoping we can come up with something cool. But I'd really like to see more tree planting on private property, and I'd really like to see, I really want to get in with some of the people in the city of Boston who are trying to do slowing neighborhood streets and saying, please pick some of these streets that are way too fast, that are way too wide, that have 4-foot wide sidewalks and so much parking, and let's get ourselves some beauty and some shade, and let's infiltrate some storm water while we're at it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you on behalf of the Alton Brain Tree Line. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Share it with them.
I will. I'm very excited. We're gonna.
Right here.
Just do one horizontal, we'll get max twice, there we go.
You're all right. Thank you.
And last but most certainly not least, Jarrell's gonna come back up here and we're going to give out our recognition for advocacy award. So Jarrell.
Certainly last but not least. Thank you. You took my line. No.
I got you covered.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Alana Feaster. Alana has. Tell you how excellent she is. There you go. Alana has over 20 years as a finance risk management director. She's a double Husky. I had to look that up. With a BA in international business and an MBA from Northeastern University. Some of her greatest achievements are becoming a member of the Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society, earning her black belt in karate, and of course, being an amazing mom to her wonderful son, Jaden. I pronounced that right, Jaden? All right. Being civic and community-minded, Alana has dedicated a tremendous amount of time advocating for the protection of the Morton Street tree canopy so that it will be preserved for the community to be enjoyed for generations to come. I have the honor to introduce and congratulate Alana Feaster.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you so much.
Take a picture and then you can answer.
Sorry.
For our files.
Okay, now get the tuna limelight.
Oh my gosh, I'm nervous, you guys.
There you go.
Okay.
Any last words, or you want
Well,
to jump in?
I first just wanted to say thank you. This means so much to be recognized by you guys today. I really do appreciate it. And with the support of all of you, this is what makes this work a lot easier, because as we all know, it is difficult, but very important work. So David and Jarrell, you guys have been like day one. Dr. Martin, day one, my father, my mother, my son, day one. So I thank you guys. But yes, questions.
What motivated you to get involved in the Save the Trees issue?
What motivated me most was I'm a mom first and foremost. I love my family, my son, my community. So when I found out about this project, and not by way of the developer, through a neighbor who was able to come upon this information of this project to destroy 4 acres of a mature tree canopy in Dorchester, for, like Ilani said, we have very little tree canopy as it is. To install something that we know is toxic, the artificial turf field. I mean, daily the science is emerging with how toxic the artificial turf field is. So when I heard about this project and the impacts that it would have for our community, quality of life impacts, the environmental impacts, the health impacts, I said, no, this can't be something that I sit back and just allow to happen. So that's when the advocacy started. That's when I reached out to Jarrell and David.
I started attending the meetings, I started speaking with my family, finding out what can I do to protect my community, because developers should not be able to come in and dictate what we have to accept in our community, especially when they're going to be detrimental impacts from what they're doing.
Yeah. All right, so is environmental advocacy something you will continue to pursue after the Boyd Street issue has been resolved?
Yes, I am in it for the long haul. I have definitely found my passion again, like Ilani said, she has found hers, I have found mine. I'm in it for the long haul. This is something you don't get a do-over with the environment. Once the trees are gone, they're gone. You know, for generations to come, we need to protect it. I want my son, his children, our children's children to be able to experience clean air, healthy environments, nice green spaces. And I just can't wrap my head around why in especially EJ communities, we have to deal with constantly fighting against these developers who push these projects that we know are creating heat islands, flooding, cancer causing, you know, material. And so, yes, I'm in it for the long haul because it's not only Morton Street, there's Malcolm X Park, there's Crane Ledge Woods. I mean, the list goes on. Stella Road, we're having a summit where we're going to be talking about all of the other parcels in the city of Boston where this is a constant issue, and you'll start to see a theme. And so, yes, the advocacy is not going to stop for me anyway, because this issue is too important. So
When is the summit?
the summit is December 13th. Thank you, Dr. Martin. December 13th, 6:30 to 8. It will be on Zoom. Jarrell did share the link, but I can, if people are interested, I can give you my email. I can make sure you get a flyer so that you can attend. Just trying to build up that grassroots coalition so that together, because it has to be something that's done together, we can work to save and protect the green spaces that we have.
Thank you, Alana. Thank you. And where did David go? There he
Right
is.
here.
So David's gonna come up and talk to us about what's budding for 2023. Are you ready?
What I love about
Excitement.
this work, it's like so many puns. All right, so, thank you all for joining. Congratulations to our awardees. We are so excited. You know, when you think about a forest, right? A forest works together. We know that, right? And no one tree is the center of that forest. No one organization is the center of this work. It has to be distributed. It has to be work that comes from the community for the community. And that's the beauty of a tree, and that's the beauty of our awardees today. And we are excited to continue working with you all. And I just wanted to go through, oh, back up, you went too quick. All right, so I want to say what's budding for 2023. We got our programs that we are really excited to continue to develop and become the heartwood of our work. And that's trees, of course, planting trees, giving away trees. It's our Teen Urban Tree Corps program that brings, that teaches young people about the importance of urban greenery and exposes them to possible career pathways. It's our Boston Urban Forest Friends Network that brings people like Max to the table and introduces them to people like Alani and Alana and building that community. It's our Arbor Week celebration in the last week of April, where people come together to recognize the importance of trees. Next slide. And what we're digging into, what we're going to expand this year, next year, we have some tree stories. We want people to celebrate trees through stories. We have a couple on our website. We want to expand that work. Jarrell has been working with communities to develop some tree walks. We're excited to share those with you all. And then we've had an amazing fellow this semester, Victoria Lita, who's not here today because she's at class, who's been doing some really great youth education work. And we want to do more of that. And then finally, we're developing some really exciting programs that we haven't yet rolled out. We've been busy at work in our offices, thanks to our development manager, Victoria. We're developing a program called Tree Keepers. We'll be out in the community teaching people how to care for the trees in their community, how to advocate for trees in their community. We're developing a program, and we still haven't figured out the name yet. We had a long discussion today in the office. Either community or neighborhoods. We love them both, right? And the idea is we're gonna be bringing trees to people, and planting them in their yards. Direct engagement with residents, helping them select the right tree, the right place, and coming to their homes with that tree. It's sort of like our tree giveaway, but on steroids. And then we're developing a strategic plan that's gonna guide our work for the next 3 to 5 years. So with that, we have another poll. What's left?
I have.
Oh, and more. Yeah, good.
There are 2 people who said they like neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a winner. I don't know. Let's see. All right. So, our last request of you is how will you commit in the coming year to caring for and expanding urban forests in Boston? And I think on this one, you can do multi-select. I don't think, you're not limited to just selecting one. Three one one, thank you. 311 is, go ahead.
So it's an emergency, kind of like emergency for like public service.
Yeah, so you put in a request, like if a light bulb, if a street is like, if you want a tree in front of your house, you call it.
The report of gas leak. You can call 311.
Actually, for a gas leak, you're supposed to call 911. Sorry.
Oh, 311 too.
Yeah, you're supposed to call, if you can smell gas, you should call 911. Sorry.
It's life and limb.
Hyperland.
So that. All right, well, thank you. You want to close this out, Dr. Martin?
Yeah, I'm just so happy that preserving the existing canopy is everyone's #1 priority, because that's a big part of the work.
Well, thank you all for participating. Here's where we do and ask. You all know, it's a nonprofit. And the only way to continue to make all those programs. Hi, Melanie. Oh my goodness, I didn't even see you. Sorry. Melanie's here, y'all.
I know.
You want to just introduce yourself real quick before we wrap up?
You go ahead.
You sure? Okay. Go ahead, come on. Tell them about coach.
All right.
Come on, just a few seconds, y'all.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Garate. I am currently the Director of Engagement for the Stone Living Lab, which is focused on, and Rebecca Shore, educator right here. We are working on nature-based approaches to climate resilience, specifically focused in coastal areas, and there are trees on the coast. I also started with other amazing women, the professionals of color in the Environment Network. So we're a group of people of color working in the environment across all sectors. So we have education, we have art, obviously science, policy, lawyers, etc. And we recently received funding from the Barr Foundation to really get this work going. And so keep a lookout for us and opportunities for you to join.
Mention where the Stone Lab is out of.
The Stone Living Lab is, thank you very much. It's a living lab, and so essentially the harbor is our lab, as well as other coastal areas. The anchor partner, though, our anchor partners are Boston Harbor Now, and that's technically where Rebecca and I are housed. And then the research arm is UMass Boston. And then we have local and federal agencies also a part of the lab. And we particularly focus on the Boston Harbor Islands. So if you haven't been to the Boston Harbor Islands, come to me.
Yes. Y'all see why that was so important? A very important interlude. So back to the ask.
Now you can ask twice.
Not good, good. So as a nonprofit organization, Speak for the Trees needs funding in order to keep all of the programs that you saw there going and to continue to create new programming. That said, please donate. We have an open campaign going through the end of the year, but we're asking folks today, if you can donate today, please do. QR code is there. Link is here for those online. If you don't want, if you're not tech savvy to use the QR code stuff. But please do donate to keep the work moving, to keep the work going. We appreciate all of you. We are only over by 5 minutes.
I'm 45 minutes late.
Yeah, we started 5 minutes late. So kudos to everyone. Thank you, Melanie, for letting me put you on the spot, and have a great. Sure, if you want. Yeah, why not?
This is okay. All right, so I wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge and recognize and appreciate and wow, Dr. Martin. She has provided 3 years of maintenance service for our organization. I remember the first time she came into our office downtown, it was February of 2019. And I was so excited for our annual meeting in March, February of 2020.
Oh, no, 2019.
No,
Was it
it
2020?
was 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah, it was
yeah, yeah.
2020. That's right.
And I was so excited because we were about to have our first annual celebration in March of 2020. So it's been 3 long years, but we finally got it in the same room. And your service for the past 3 years has been phenomenal. She will be moving on to, she does a lot of stuff that I can't wrap my brain around how much she does. But I wanted to thank you for your service for the past 3 years as board member and board chair, and your leadership has been just phenomenal. So thank you. And I'm proud to say I consider you now a friend and all this work. So thank you.
I'm not going anywhere, God willing. I just won't be the board chair on the board, but I'll be around. So I'm very excited to stay connected to the work. And thank you for all your kind words. And I'm gonna wrap us up because I know people are like ready. Like, it's time to wrap it up, right? So thank you all very much. There is food, there are drinks. Please take some with you. Please. And everyone online, thank you so much for being on with us this evening. Please donate, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
You did it.
You did it. 3 years late. Oh, yeah. Let's get the recipients. Let's get the 3 VIPs up. I swear on the 4. How do I turn this off?
What's happening? Guys, VIP, right? You have
Well, we have Tafari too.
Tafari,
Oh, yeah, Chris.
Chris.
Yeah.